My name is Sarah Miller, whose name has been changed. I am a simple girl living in a quiet small town in suburban Salem, Oregon. My boyfriend, Michael, whose name has been changed, lives not far from my house. In the same town, we often spend time together, going out, watching movies, or just driving around the area in the evening. The road leading to Michael's house goes through a somewhat secluded area. And on that road, there is a house, an old, abandoned house that has been empty for a long time. The house sits on a small hill, hidden behind overgrown trees. The paint on the walls has peeled off completely. The windows are broken or boarded up. The front yard is full of weeds, looking very desolate. The house has a gloomy and terrifying appearance, especially at dusk. People in the town don't talk much about this abandoned house. There are only vague rumors that it is haunted, that something bad happened there in the past. No one dares to go near that house, especially at night. Every time Michael drives me home, or we walk through that road in the evening, I feel a strange unease. The air around that abandoned house seems colder than in other places. There is an eerie silence, with only the wind whistling through the broken window panes. Michael also feels it. He often says that house has a strange vibe. We usually try to drive through that section quickly, not looking directly at the house. It is a familiar road, but it always carries a sense of unease. The house on Cedar Hill, standing there, silent and terrifying, like a constant reminder of unspoken things. On a late summer evening in 2023, as Michael was driving me home after a date, we went through that road again. Sunset had completely faded. Night fell, covering everything. The abandoned house looked more terrifying than ever under the faint moonlight. The familiar unease crept into me again, and I didn't know that tonight, that unease would become a horrifying reality. Michael was driving along the familiar road. I was sitting next to him, looking out the window. Night had completely fallen. Only the car's headlights illuminated a section of the road ahead. As we drove past the abandoned house on Cedar Hill, the familiar unease crept into me again. I shivered slightly. I glanced towards the house, not looking directly at it as usual. And then, I saw, right in front of the house, near a withered tree in the yard, there was something. A figure of a man. And he was hanging in the air. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest. The figure looked blurry, translucent, as if made of gray mist. But it had the clear shape of a man, wearing old clothes. And around his neck, there was a rope. That rope went upwards, where there was nothing. He was hanging in the air, a few meters above the ground. His head was slightly tilted to one side, his arms and legs hanging loosely. An unbelievable image, the ghost of a hanged man. I was fixated on that terrifying image, in utter shock and fear. Was it real, or was I mistaken? I couldn't speak, only my own gasping for breath. We were driving past the abandoned house. The car's headlights illuminated that horrifying image for just a few seconds as we passed. I turned my head to look back, trying to see it again. The image was still there, hanging in the air, the ghost of the hanged man, the rope around his neck, his eyes. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I felt a sense of extreme suffering, and a sense of anger. He didn't do anything, just hung there, silent. But that image was enough to send shivers down my spine. I turned back to look at Michael, my face pale with fear. Michael was driving. He wasn't looking towards the abandoned house. "Michael!" I shouted, my voice trembling violently. "Michael! Stop! Go back! Do you see it?" Michael was startled. He looked at my terrified face. "What is it, Sarah? What's wrong?" Michael asked, his voice worried. "The abandoned house!" I screamed. "That abandoned house! I saw! I stammered, unable to speak. The image of the hanging ghost kept replaying in my mind. The hanging ghost had appeared. That unbelievable image had become a horrifying reality. And it had been seen. I screamed at Michael, my voice trembling, pointing towards the abandoned house on Cedar Hill. Michael was startled, looking at my terrified face. "What did you see, Sarah?" Michael asked, a little confused. Turn back, quick," I shouted. "At that abandoned house. I saw." I was still stammering, unable to articulate. Michael looked towards the abandoned house that was receding behind us. He quickly turned the car around, ignoring the fact that he was going against traffic on the deserted road. He slowed down as we approached the abandoned house again. The car's headlights shone on the front of the house, on the area of the withered tree and the yard. Michael and I both stared intently at that area. Our hearts pounded. At first, we didn't see anything, just the darkness and the withered tree. I felt a little disappointed and scared. Maybe I was mistaken? Maybe the light or the darkness had played tricks on my eyes? But that image was too real, too clear. Then, as Michael's car drove past that area again, slowly, Michael suddenly let out a small gasp. "Oh, my God," Michael muttered. I looked over at him. Michael's face was pale, his eyes wide with fear. He was staring at the abandoned house. He saw it too. I looked back towards that area. The image appeared again, hanging in the air, the ghost of the hanged man. Blurry, translucent, with the rope around his neck. This time, I saw it a little clearer. His eyes seemed to be looking straight at us. A gaze full of extreme suffering and resentment. Truth confirmed. Michael saw it. I saw it. We weren't hallucinating. That ghost was real. Michael quickly stepped on the gas, speeding away from the abandoned house as fast as possible. We drove on the road, in terrifying silence. Only our gasping for breath was the sound. After a long while, after we were out of the area of the abandoned house, Michael pulled over into a deserted parking lot. We sat there, in the car, trembling all over. I saw it," Michael said softly, his voice trembling. I saw it too." He turned to look at me, his eyes full of horror. What was that, Sarah?" Michael asked. Was that a ghost?" I nodded, speechless. Truth confirmed. We had seen the ghost of a hanged man at the abandoned house on Cedar Hill. That horrifying encounter had changed everything. The familiar road will never be the same again, and the image of the hanging ghost will forever haunt us. After the horrifying night we saw the ghost of the hanged man, Michael and I were deeply haunted. The image kept replaying in our minds, making it difficult to sleep and filling us with fear every time we thought of that familiar road. We knew we had to find out about the abandoned house on Cedar Hill. Why was there such a terrifying ghost there? What happened in the past? We started searching for information, asking people we knew in town, searching online, in local old news archives. At first, it was very difficult. No one wanted to talk much about that abandoned house. People in town seemed to want to forget everything related to it. There were only vague rumors about it being haunted and unlucky. But we persevered. And finally, we found it. We found information about the history of the house on Cedar Hill. It used to be a normal house, where a family lived. Then, many years ago, a tragedy occurred. We read old newspaper articles talking about an incident that happened in that house. A man died there. More specifically, he took his own life by hanging himself right inside the house. Hearing this, I shivered. The truth about his death matched what we had seen. The article didn't specify why he did it. It only said that he was going through many difficulties in life, and finally couldn't bear it anymore. The incident happened around the 1990s, within the time frame you requested. After that suicide, the house was abandoned. No one wanted to buy it. People said that the house was haunted by the spirit of the man who died tragically there. The bloody history of the abandoned house was revealed. The truth buried beneath the rumors and the silence of the townspeople. The reason why the ghost appeared there was now clear. The spirit of the man who took his own life was trapped there. Unable to find peace. Perhaps he was reliving the last moment of his life. Or perhaps he was angry for some reason. We felt both scared and saddened by the tragic fate of that man. But that sadness didn't lessen our fear. The image of the hanging ghost with the rope around his neck. We knew that it was the truth, the terrifying truth about the abandoned house on Cedar Hill. And we had accidentally encountered that truth. After learning the bloody history of the abandoned house on Cedar Hill and the truth about the ghost of the hanged man, our fear grew deeper. That familiar road now became a road we didn't want to travel anymore. Every time I thought about having to pass by that abandoned house, I shivered. The image of the hanging ghost, that suffering and angry gaze, kept appearing in my mind. Michael felt the same way. He admitted that he no longer dared to drive past that abandoned house at night. We changed our route home. Although it meant taking a slightly longer detour, we preferred taking the detour than facing the possibility of seeing that ghost again. However, the haunting still followed us. Even when we weren't passing by the abandoned house, the image of the hanging ghost still appeared in my nightmares. In my dreams, I saw myself standing in front of the abandoned house, looking up at the withered tree in the yard, and seeing the ghost of the hanged man staring at me. His eyes were full of suffering and resentment, as if trying to say something. I woke up in fear, my heart pounding. The ghost haunts the road. His presence wasn't limited to the abandoned house. Perhaps his energy had spread to the surrounding area. Sometimes, when I was at home, I would suddenly feel an unusual cold draft, or see shadows flitting at the edge of my vision, although I knew it might be due to me being overly scared and imagining things. Those feelings still made me uneasy. We knew that the abandoned house on Cedar Hill was no longer just an abandoned house. It was a cursed place, a grave of suffering and anger. And the ghost of the hanged man was still trapped there, reliving the last moment of his life. Dare not pass anymore. That was our only choice. We don't know if the spirit of that man will ever find peace. We only know that we had accidentally encountered an old tragedy. And that tragedy was still alive in the form of a terrifying ghost. The familiar road was now haunted by the ghost of the hanged man. And that truth will forever be a part of our lives. The horrifying encounter with the ghost of the hanged man at the abandoned house on Cedar Hill left a deep scar on my mind and Michael's. We never looked at that familiar road the same way again. We avoided passing by that abandoned house at all costs. But every time we thought about it, we shivered. The withered tree in the yard, the dilapidated house, and the image of the hanging ghost all haunted us. The truth about the abandoned house, about the tragic suicide that happened there many years ago, explained why the ghost appeared. The spirit of the man who died tragically is trapped there, unable to find peace. I know that there are people who don't believe in ghosts. They would say that it was just due to me and Michael being overly scared and imagining things. But we know what we saw was real. We saw it together. The ghost haunts the road. It is a constant reminder of the tragedy that happened there. The haunting from Cedar Hill wasn't limited to that road. Sometimes, when I was at home, I still felt a strange presence, or saw shadows flit by. Perhaps that ghost had followed us a little, or its energy had affected us. We tried to go back to normal life, but the fear was always present. Every time it got dark, I felt anxious. I know that the abandoned house on Cedar Hill still stands there, gloomy and terrifying, and the ghost of the hanged man is still trapped there. The truth about the abandoned house is a true horror story for us. We accidentally stepped into an old tragedy, and that tragedy has haunted us. Haunted by Cedar Hill will forever cling to me, and every time I think about it, I shiver. Our story is a warning. Be careful with abandoned places, especially places with dark histories. You never know what is hiding there. If you enjoyed these true horror stories, or stories based on accounts and unexplained mysteries, like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the channel to follow our latest videos. We will bring you more terrifying and haunting stories. Thank you for listening.